Hey, welcome back. I was walking through Central Park the other day, near the reservoir, and I saw this little girl, couldn't have been more than 4, just staring at a squirrel with this look of absolute, profound wonder. Like she was seeing something from another world. And it got me thinking about how we process the utterly unfamiliar. What happens when you encounter something so strange, so out of place, that the only stories you have to explain it come from the edges of your imagination? That feeling, that collision between the known world and the utterly inexplicable, is at the heart of one of history's most enduring and bizarre mysteries. One that involves 2 very lost, very green children. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is Hidden Histories, the Untold Files. Today, we're traveling not to a distant continent, but to a distant century. We're going to 12th century England, to the village of Woolpit in Suffolk. The name itself comes from the Old English for wolf pit, those deep traps used to catch wolves. And it's here, sometime during the chaotic reign of King Stephen, a period so brutal they called it the Anarchy, that our story begins. According to 2 chroniclers from that era, Ralph of Coggeshall and William of Newburgh, reapers working the fields at harvest time found 2 children, a boy and a girl. They were huddled together at the mouth of one of those old wolf pits, terrified. But it wasn't just their circumstance that was shocking. It was their appearance. Their skin, we are told, was tinged with a green hue, and their clothing was made of a strange, unfamiliar material. They spoke a language no one could recognize. They were utterly alien. The villagers, likely a mixture of frightened and compassionate, took them in. They were offered food, but refused to eat anything, until someone brought in some freshly cut green beans, stalks and all. That, they understood. That, they ate ravenously. The boy, who seemed younger and weaker, soon fell ill and died. But the girl, she survived. She slowly adapted. Her green coloration began to fade. She learned English, and eventually, she was baptized and integrated into the community, even later marrying a man from a nearby village. But before she lost her green tint and her strange tongue, she was able to tell a story. And what a story it was. She said she and her brother came from a place called the Land of St. Martin, a twilight realm where the sun never rose, and the light was perpetual, like the glow just after sunset. She described it as a green, luminous land, separated from this world by a wide river. One day, she and her brother were tending their father's flocks when they heard a loud sound, like the bells of Berry Street, Edmonds, the great abbey near Woolpit. They followed this mesmerizing sound into a cave. They wandered in darkness for what felt like an age, until they finally emerged, blinded by the sudden, harsh sunlight of our world, right at the mouth of the wolf pit. And there, the reapers found them. So, what in the world do we do with a story like that? A first contact narrative, 700 years before Roswell. The Green Children of Woolpit have been explained as everything from Flemish immigrants to fairy folk, from malnourished orphans to, yes, visitors from another planet. Let's put on our investigator hats. My engineer brain loves this part, and break down the evidence. First, the green skin. This is the most famous detail, and the one that screams alien to a modern audience. But medieval chroniclers weren't science fiction writers. Green wasn't a typical color for otherworldly. That was more often black or white. Medical explanations are plausible. Chlorosis, a form of anemia from iron deficiency that can give skin a greenish pallor, especially in young women. Or perhaps a diet heavy in unprocessed greens, combined with a copper imbalance. If they were starving and sick, their complexion could have been described as green. As they recovered on a normal diet, the color faded. That fits. Then there's their origin story. The Land of St. Martin, a twilight world. St. Martin was a hugely popular saint, the patron of the poor and of travelers. For a medieval peasant girl, naming her lost home after him makes a kind of poetic sense. But a land of permanent dusk? Could that be a child's memory of coming from a deep, shaded forest, or a densely populated mining area where the sun was blocked? The loud sound like bells that led them astray. That's haunting. Bells were the sound of the church, of community, of safety. To be lured away by them into a terrifying journey could be a metaphor for displacement itself. And this is where my own perspective, as someone who's built a life and ocean away from where I started, really connects with this. I know what it is to have your world suddenly shift, to have the food be different, the light feel different, the sounds of the city replacing the sounds of the village. Your language becomes useless. You are, in a very real sense, an alien. You have to learn everything from scratch. The Green Children's story reads to me like a profound, traumatized refugee narrative filtered through the only cultural lens a 12th century peasant girl had. The perpetual twilight? Maybe she came from a place much further north, with long, dark winters. Or from underground. Some have suggested they were lost children from the nearby Grimes graves, the ancient flint mines, a labyrinth of pits and tunnels that would seem like an underground world. Their strange clothing? Possibly Flemish weave, unfamiliar to Suffolk locals. Their language? Flemish or another continental tongue. During King Stephen's chaotic reign, there were conflicts, persecutions. It's possible their family was killed, and they fled, hiding in mines or forests for so long they became malnourished and disoriented, finally emerging, terrified and green-tinged, into the English countryside. But, and this is a big but, why would two independent chroniclers, writing seriously about the affairs of the realm, include this tale if it was just a local oddity? They presented it as a true event, a marvel. In the medieval mind, marvels were signs. They were cracks in reality that showed God's creation was wider and stranger than anyone knew. The story had meaning. It was a parable about baptism and salvation. The lost, strange children brought into the light of Christ, their green sin washed away. It was a reminder that even in a time of war and anarchy, wonder and mystery still existed at the edges of the fields. The girl grew up, married, lived a normal life. They say she was rather loose and wanton in her conduct, which is such a wonderfully human, gossipy detail to survive 8 centuries. It tells us she became real. She wasn't just a fairy tale. She was a person with a reputation in her village. That, to me, is the most compelling evidence that at the core of this legend is a true event. 2 lost children really did appear in Woolpit. Everything else, the green skin, the twilight land, the bells, is the patina of story layered over a hard, human core of trauma and survival. So, were the Green Children of Woolpit medieval alien encounters? In the most literal, extraterrestrial sense, probably not. But were they aliens? Absolutely. They were outsiders in the most extreme sense. They represented the ultimate other, and how that village chose to treat them, with initial fear, but then with a kind of pragmatic compassion, feeding them, teaching them, integrating them. That's the real hidden history here. In a dark age, they didn't cast out the strange. They took them in. They made them familiar. The mystery endures not because we need it to be visitors from another planet, but because it's a perfect, poignant capsule of human experience. It's about being lost and found, about the stories we tell to make sense of our displacement, and about the fact that sometimes the most otherworldly thing you can encounter is simply another person from a world just different enough from your own to seem like magic. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this journey into the twilight, please share the show with someone else who loves a good mystery. For more untold files, visit our home at Light Not Studios. https://www.lightnotstudios.com. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi. Until next time, keep wondering.